Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
Namaskar friends, I am Dr. Kisan Joshi from Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, and the topic that we are going to deal with today is literature and history. And here is the outline for the presentation. So we are going to discuss as part of our presentation. The first topic will be introduction, then understanding the word history, history as a source of inspiration, understanding the word literature, the progress of history and literature in a postmodern era. That's an interesting topic that we are going to talk about in brief. Questions for discussion, and the last, references. So let's start with the introduction that we are going to establish our understanding for the present topic. So the moment we listen to the word history, the important thing that comes to us is the background knowledge about the world history that we have been learning since our childhood. History is something that holds an account of our past experiences. When I say our, it means mankind. History preserves our memories in a tangible form. So when I say history preserves, the basic role of history is to preserve our memories, preserves for the future generations to come. In a tangible form, when I say tangible form, it simply means something that we can hold for years to come, something that we can pass on to our future generations, something that they can read and understand. So that's why I am saying in a tangible form means written form. Even the history was somewhere preserved in a spoken form. That was something like people used to remember things and then pass on those things from present generation to the coming generation. So that was not tangible form, and there were always chances for getting it changed over a period of time. So that is not that was a form, but that is not considered to be the healthiest form of keeping things, preserving things for a future generation, because they need someone to preserve it for them so that they can get the experience of the past generations for them. Historians reconstruct the event from different sources like written documents and different sources of narratives. So whenever the historians get something from a particular source or from narrative, they try to make it possible that they preserve it in a written form. Along with that, what they do is, from the past events, they reconstruct the whole event. So the reconstruction is one of the core and important purpose. So reconstruction for an historians. So reconstruction for historians become an important event for them to do. History helps us to understand the present point of existence. The moment we think of our existence is not something that we have suddenly come up with. Is a result of the whole past years, decades or centuries we have been living, humankind has been living. So when I say history, it helps us to understand our present point, because what we are at present is once again a journey of humankind. So it helps us in that way as well. And history comprises many things. We start with past events, memories, discoveries that human beings have made, collections in forms of written documents or documents in different forms, organizations, presentations or interpretations of information about these events. So all these things come together and make the term history, and history comprises all these things. Understanding the word history. So history term came from Greek word historia, that simply means inquiry, knowledge acquired by investigation. So these both are very important and interesting terms. Inquiry and knowledge acquired by investigation. Human beings always love to investigate things. So whatever they have acquired through investigations, whatever knowledge they have gained through investigations, through tedious process of learning things or anything, that will be called history, and that what Greek term, archaeological term or archaic term historia means. History is nothing but events or records that we have already discussed. History means record of something, a record of events, including all the kind of things that human race, human beings, the history has experienced throughout the years. It bridges between the past and the present. It plays a role of a bridge between past and present incidents or events, and it records them in a tangible form. So here the word once again tangible is very important. Tangible is something in a form of written documents. Discussion about the nature of history as a discipline is never ending. So it has always been a kind of a matter of debate to establish that whether we should have history as a discipline, as a subject or not, is always a matter of discussion among the fraternity of education, educationists and everything, and teachers, even all the authorities of education. They always have a kind of a debate over this point. And finally, what we are having is history is taught as a subject at a primary and secondary level schools, and it is established as a discipline at university levels as well. So almost every university will be having history as a discipline, as a core discipline, as part of their setup. History is a source of inspiration. There is no doubt that history is not a source of inspiration. It is a source of inspiration because it holds the source of inspiration in form of our tradition and glorious heroic deeds in the past generations. For example, if I talk about history of independent India, we need to think of India before independence, the kind of sacrifices our patriotic people have given, the sacrifices they have done, the lives that they have given, is something that is in tangible form with us. That's what is always inspiration, full of inspiration for we as an Indian at the present time. We always love to read those things, we always get inspirations from those legendary people. Had there not been any kind of documentation, it would have been very difficult for us to learn from those people who are not physically present at time, but their deeds are recorded, their actions are preserved in a documented forms, in a written form. So that is the reason history is always inspiration, full of inspirations, and not only Indian history but the world history is full of these kind of legendary people. According to Hegel, history itself is a history of liberty that talks about moral ideas of humanity. So Hegel is a famous person who is talking about history in a different form. History is considered as sound record of biography of any nation or science and its progress. Time is never static, it is always dynamic, it flows on and on. So whatever we are experiencing today is going to be past tomorrow, and everything is to be recorded for the future generations to come. to inspire them. History is important for self-enlightenment. So it is once again very important. If I want to learn something, if I want to get inspired by someone, for my enrichment, my self-enrichment, my self-enlightenment, I need something, I need a support, and that support I might get from the present time, or I might have to search someone who inspires me, who interests me from the past events. So that's why I wanted to say that history is important for self-enlightenment. Now, important question is, what is the role of historians? It is always difficult for them to cope with time, and we as citizens, we have to rely on these kind of historians who need to be authentic, who need to be truthful all the time, because history is something that has to be that must have a quality of truthfulness, and we need these kind of qualities from all the historians. So let's talk about what is the role and purpose of historians. It says that the role and purpose of historians will be to study, to clarify and exhibit the historical process. Nothing comes out of vacuum. So it is very important to learn that nothing can be created from nothing. We need to have something in order to create something. So a famous kind of a quote is, we cannot create castle in air, is something that goes with the role and purpose of historians. So it is very authentic to say that nothing comes out of vacuum. Historians need something. They always are in search of something that is tangible, something that they can rely on, something that has an authenticity to prove what they are saying, what kind of things that they want to prove has a kind of a proof. An ideal historian is always skeptical. Whatever they receive, they need to check and recheck and recheck always. They need to be skeptical. They need to be always asking questions. Historians help common people to understand the society's past and guide them to move ahead for the better future society. So it is always important for historians to support people with guidelines that will help them to understand their present state of existence that we have already discussed, and to move ahead in a better future and to make a better and brightened society. The task of historians is very challenging. We all know that to document history, to share something with authentication is not an easy task, is a very tedious and time consuming task, and that's why it is very challenging job for the historians. And the problem arises when we understand that history is never static, it is always dynamic. History never remains the same, it always keeps on changing and changing and changing. So it's very important to learn that nature of history, that it is never static. Whatever is present will be past tomorrow. Historians reconstruct the past in an interesting and intelligible manner. Intelligible in a way that people understand, people start believing things. It should not be something unintelligible, something that people can understand. So that quality is something that historians need to imply as part of their work. History and its relationship with other disciplines. Now when I say history is something that has a very near relation with other disciplines as well. As we have discussed, that history had always a discussion zone where it was in, that whether we should take up history as a subject merely at the school levels, or we should establish history as a separate discipline, and if it is so, then what it has a kind of a relation with other subjects or other disciplines is something once again a very important point to discuss and to know as well for ourselves, for our better understanding about the term history. History shares the quality of following disciplines, like it has a different kind of qualities. History, the word itself, has a very wide meaning in itself, but when it comes to its relation with other disciplines, we can say that history has a very near relation with other disciplines like science, arts, sociology, philosophy. We cannot move all these disciplines out of history. History itself is a part of these disciplines, or these disciplines are also part of history, because we always had a kind of changing or inventions attitude of people in all the disciplines. The moment I say Hegel was a person who defined history in a particular form, I am talking about history. It is being documented, that we can read, and something that is authentic. So, it has a very strong relation with other disciplines. History as a discipline includes both growth or declining phases of humanity and their challenging and changing nature. So, when I say history is ever changing, is something that goes with both the kind of processes. History talks about growth of something, history does talk about decline of something. History is a third person observer, we can say that. It does not get involved in things, it tells what it receives. So, that is very simple kind of a process of history, the nature of history we are talking about. To do this, all the historians need to use or employ sources, like they need to rely on different sources to get information, to make their point more strong. These records are documents in archives which are available, eyewitnesses reports, maybe recollections, diaries or letters, or newspapers or archaeological remains that we have found at different places in Gujarat as well, folklores or popular literature, and many other things. So, whatever is in a tangible form helps, whatever in tangible forms helps all the historians to make their point, to present things in a more stronger form. Now let us talk about the word literature. Literature is a very important and widely discussed term, and it is something that is very important for the students of arts. Not arts always, but literature is something that has interest everyone across the globe. According to Oxford Dictionary, the definition that it says is, literature means literary production as a whole, the body of writing according to Oxford Dictionary, literature means literary productions as a whole, the body of writings produced in a particular country or period or in a world in general. So, whatever is available in written form, no matter what country, no matter what time it has been written in, everything will be under the term, under the umbrella term, we can call it literature. Further, we can say that literature is a form of human expression. So, whatever I feel, if I can write, if I can share my feelings, my experiences, be it abstract or be it something that I have physically felt, spiritually felt, emotionally felt. If I can write something and if I can share with the world, it will be the part of literature. That is why it is said that it is in a form of human expression. In general sense, literature includes creative writing in a form of poetry or poems, we can say that, or fictions or drama or essays, anything. Popular narratives, we can say that, and work produced by philosophers, historians, religious and social thinkers, travelers, we do have travelogues, and nature writers. In Gujarat we have many kind of nature writers, and at present point in the age of internet, 21st century, we have blogs. So that is also an important and authentic source of literature nowadays. The dimension of the definition of literature is now changing as per the time. Literature is nothing but an ideology in a certain artistic form, and a work of literature is just expression of ideologies of their time. So literature of different times, literature written in a different eras by different people, is something that is at present available with us. If we interest that thing, it becomes a part of our experience. It becomes a part of human experiences passed on to us at present point where we are living in. No matter at what point it has been written, but whatever we are receiving now will become literature, will come under the umbrella term literature. The progress of history and literature in postmodern era. So when I say postmodern era, it is very important to know that the 21st century, postmodern, see all the eras, be it modern era or postmodern era, it is for our convenience that we have divided them, those eras, as per the durations, time durations. Otherwise, time is always in a linear form. For our understanding, we have divided time as per our progress. So when I say modern, the following period is postmodern. What is the progress of history and literature in postmodern era? That is once again an interesting point to discuss. The first question that always arises in our mind when we talk about the progress of history and literature in postmodern era, postmodern time, is, does history in the world change? And the answer that comes is yes, it does, because in postmodern world both history and fiction are cultural science systems and ideological constructions, including their appearance in being autonomous and self-contained. Yes, history in the postmodern era, history of the world does change, and it becomes the part of cultural science system. Before postmodern condition in the world, West literature dominated the whole globe. At present, not British literature, not English literature, but the term that is very famous is world literature, and that is the effect of the change that we have experienced throughout the years, the change that we can see in the postmodern era. And the answer once again will be to this question is yes, it does. History and literature have no existence in and of themselves. It is very obvious kind of a thing to know that history and literature individually, they do not have any existence. They both rely very much on each other. It is we who constitute them as the object of our understanding, object for our understanding. So, that is very important to know. In history and literature, debate, in history and literature debate, the postmodernism give new insights into complexities of narrative discourses and highlight the role of language in reconstruction and reconstructing the human past. So, there is always a kind of a debate among historians, among people who are very much in this kind of a disciplines, and it is always said that the postmodernists, all the historians and everyone, literature people, they have tried to give us a new insights and to understand the complexities of narrative discourses. The term discourse in postmodern era is very important. The famous person, philosopher Foucault, is a person, French philosopher. According to him, history is fiction written within the parameters of truth. Here the word truth is very important, except that the former, that is history, is based on what had happened and existed, while the later, that is fiction, is based on the construction of our imagination. So, it is constructed based on our imagination. According to Foucault, history is fiction written within the parameters of truth. Here the term truth is very important, except that the former, that is history, is based on what had happened and existed, while the laters, that becomes fiction, while the laters basics of construction is imagination of human beings, imagination. So, the first one is based on truth and the second one, that is fiction, is based on our imagination. Thus, the whole argument establishes a close relation and interplay of history and literature. So, the whole argument at the end we can conclude to say that both are very much interdependent, both are not individual entities, they both are very much in connection with each other, they are interdependent, they are in relationship with each other. And therefore, for the better understanding of history, one must get to know the recorded experiences of our creative writers and their writings that they have created and produced at the time when they were in, at the time of their respective eras. For the whole discussion, we can have some of the questions at the end. History and fiction are inseparable, both are inseparable. We need to explain that thing. What are the views of the postmodernists on history and fiction? Can it be concluded that neither history nor fiction can be prevailed over and other can it be concluded that neither history nor fiction can be privileged over the other, both, but the genre are sides. Can it be concluded that neither history nor fiction can be privileged over the other, but both the genres are sides of the same coin? So, they are both the one coins, both the sides, they are side of both the coins. So, in a way they are very much in connection with each other, though they are different. These are the references that I would like to share with you for your further reading. Thank you, friends. For the next session, we'll be talking about the interesting novel that is Train to Pakistan by Khushwant Singh in relation with literature and history. Namaskar for now.